Have you ever been told by your doctor that your test results were perfectly normal, while your body was telling you something completely different? If so, then this video is for you. You waited 3 months for this appointment. 3 months of writing everything down, every symptom, every question, carefully written down on your phone, ready for the moment someone finally listened. Because today had to be different. Today had to be the day you finally got answers. What happened next would leave you feeling more alone than you had ever felt in your life. But it would also lead you to something you never expected. And if you've ever left a doctor's office feeling dismissed, confused, or hopeless, the second half of this story may be exactly what you need to hear. You sit quietly in the waiting room. Your eyes drift towards the consultation room door that keeps opening for everyone except you. Your heart is doing something between nervous and hopeful that you can't quite find the words for. Because despite everything, despite the years of suffering, despite all the appointments, you still believe that maybe today will be different. Maybe today someone will finally believe you. And here is the part that someone who has never been chronically ill could ever understand. A part of you almost wants the results to be bad. Not because you want to be sick. You already know you're sick. You feel it every single day. Bad results would mean something. They would mean proof. Proof that all of your symptoms were real. It's not in your head. Because answers, even difficult ones, would mean a path forward, a reason, a place to begin. Maybe, just maybe, the first step on the long road back to feeling like yourself again. So you sit, you wait, and you hope. A voice cut through the silence of the waiting room. Your name is called. You gather your things, take a quiet breath, and walk through the door. You nervously take your seat. The doctor finally turns towards you. He smiles, a warm, reassuring smile. The kind of smile that should make everything feel okay. And for just a second, just one tiny, hopeful moment, your heart lifts. "Good news," he says, turning the screen towards you. You look at the results. Rows of numbers, reference ranges, green check marks beside every single one. Everything has come back completely normal. Your blood tests are perfect. There is absolutely nothing to worry about. He says it warmly, genuinely, as though he has just given you the best news you could possibly hope for. As though you should be smiling, relieved, or even overjoyed. You look back at the screen. You stare at those so-called perfect results. And something inside you quietly collapses. Because this is the part that so many people never understand. You didn't come here hoping for perfect blood tests. You came here hoping for an answer. And there is a world of difference between the two. Because perfect results don't suddenly make you feel well. All of your debilitating symptoms are still there. Nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is what the piece of paper says. Because as far as your doctor is concerned, as far as the healthcare system is concerned, there is nothing wrong with you. And somehow, that feels even harder to hear than receiving a diagnosis. Because a diagnosis gives you a way forward. This gives you nothing. You hear yourself quietly say, "Thank you." You ask 1 or 2 questions. You can't even remember what they were afterwards. You hear the doctor's answers, but they barely register. By now, every word feels less like comfort and more like a door slowly closing. You walk out of the room carrying exactly the same illness you walked in with. The only difference is, now you have a piece of paper telling the world that you're perfectly healthy. You leave the doctor's office. You get in your car. And then, suddenly, you can't hold it in any longer. You break down. You cry and let it all out. At some point, around 3 in the morning, after hours of staring at the ceiling, you do the one thing you've been trying very hard not to do. You search your symptoms, for real this time. Not the quick searches you've done before. Not the ones where panic made you close the browser after 5 minutes. This time, it's different. Because this isn't curiosity anymore. It's desperation. The room is completely silent. The only sound is the soft tapping of your thumbs against the screen. One symptom, then another, then another. You keep searching, and slowly, something unexpected begins to happen. For the first time in months, the words on the screen don't feel distant. They feel familiar. Painfully familiar. You're reading people describe symptoms you've experienced for years. Symptoms you've never quite known how to put into words. You open another page. Reddit forums, Facebook groups, people from different countries, different ages, different lives. Yet somehow describing an experience that feels almost identical to your own. And for the first time since all of this began, you don't feel crazy. You feel recognized. These people understand. They've sat in the same waiting rooms. They've cried in the same car parks. They've smiled politely at family members who meant well but couldn't quite understand. And then, you begin noticing something else. Hope. Not because of promises of miracle cures, not overnight transformations. Real stories. Messy stories. People talking about gradually getting their lives back. About finally finding their root cause. About finding practitioners who stepped back and looked at the whole picture and asked a different question. Instead of, how do we suppress what is happening? They ask, why is this happening? Again and again, one phrase keeps appearing. Functional medicine. You've heard the term before, maybe in passing, in an online comment. But tonight, you stop scrolling. You read carefully. You discover people talking about inflammation, gut health, nervous system dysfunction, food sensitivities, environmental triggers, chronic stress, gene mutations, concepts that feel much closer to your own experience than the 10-minute appointment you had earlier that day. And sitting there, in the quiet of your bedroom, something begins to change. Not because you've suddenly found the answer, but because, for the first time in a very long time, you realize something incredibly important. Maybe you haven't reached the end of the road. Maybe you've only reached the end of one road. And there are still others you haven't explored yet. You finally have the one thing you've been looking for. Hope. Real hope that you can close this chapter and start a new healthy one. And for the first time in months, you put your phone down, close your eyes, and fall asleep believing that tomorrow might look different. If any part of this story felt familiar, I want you to remember a few things. First, your experience is real, and not having an explanation is not the same as your symptoms not existing. A normal test result simply means that, within the limits of that particular test, nothing significant was found. It doesn't mean you've imagined what you've been living through. The human body is complex, and those with chronic symptoms eventually discover that standard testing doesn't capture the full picture of what's happening. Second, ask for copies of your blood test results, not just the phone call that says, "Everything looks normal." Ask for the actual numbers, the reference ranges, because one of the most confusing things about modern healthcare is that normal and optimal are not always the same thing. Reference ranges are designed to identify disease that's reached critical level. Their job is often to identify severe disease or immediate danger, not the slower, more subtle dysfunctions that can still leave someone chronically ill. For many people, that space between not critically ill and genuinely healthy is where they end up living for years. Third, if conventional medicine hasn't been able to explain your symptoms, it doesn't mean you've reached the end of the road. It may simply mean you've reached the end of one road. Many people choose to explore other approaches alongside conventional healthcare. Some work with functional or integrative medicine practitioners who spend more time looking at the body as a whole rather than focusing only on individual symptoms. They may explore areas such as gut health, nutrient deficiencies, hormone balance, inflammation, food sensitivities, environmental factors, nervous system regulation, lifestyle patterns. Functional medicine often asks a different question. Not, what symptoms can we suppress, but why is your body struggling in the first place? What changed before your symptoms began? All the things standard appointments don't allow time for. And while no single doctor or protocol has all the answers, you start your journey of finding the answers that are personal to you, putting the pieces of the puzzle together and finding your root cause. This is where healing can realistically begin. And finally, please remember this. One of the hardest parts of living with a chronic illness isn't always the symptoms themselves. It's feeling like you're carrying them alone. That's why communities matter. Because healing, even when it is slow, messy, and uncertain, becomes much harder when you are trying to do it alone. That's why we created Revivo Health. Not because we have all the answers, we don't, but because nobody should have to walk this road believing they're the only one on it. Let me assure you, you're not. That's why we're dropping videos every week that gives you the practical help you need on your journey back to recovery. Insight coming from people who have been chronically ill for many years and know the everyday struggles we all go through and how to overcome them. So please subscribe to our channel. This could be the most important decision you've ever made. You'll have a community behind you that understands and will support you any way they can. So please like this video and subscribe to Revivo Health. Also, we'd love to hear your story. Tell me in the comments where you are in your health journey, what you've experienced, what you've learned. Let's learn from each other. Thank you for watching.